Greetings once again, everyone. Thanks for joining me for another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. Today I'm doing the new releases for September 26th, 2025. The days, they just keep clicking by. So let's get started. I always start with box sets and the bigger items. And this week I'm actually starting with a CD box set because I don't have the vinyl box set here. Nobody asked me for it, so I wasn't going to go out of my way for it. It had had numerous sort of delays along the way, but here we are, Genesis and The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway box set. This is the CD and Blu-ray edition. It's kind of a nice book. This is about 125 bucks. Let's see. It features the 2025 remaster on 2 CDs, a Blu-ray disc with Dolby Atmos, a download card that includes some extra demos, and then a live from the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles, January 1975, and a 60-page book, a 1975 tour program, replica ticket, and poster. So Peter Gabriel era, his last album with the band before departing, and Phil Collins became their lead singer after that when the drummer steps to the front. It is available on vinyl if you're interested in that. You have to let me know. All right, and another sort of like kind of big size release this week, and it's I'll be showing it again on vinyl here in a minute. But Beat, and this is live. This is kind of a set of guys that went out on the road last year and did concerts playing King Crimson songs. This is a 3 CD and Blu-ray art book. This includes Adrian Belew, Steve Vai, Tony Levin, and Danny Carey performing the 80s music of King Crimson, recorded live in Los Angeles. This is the 80s version, well, because Adrian Belew was part of King Crimson in the 80s. So it's a little more beat driven than original King Crimson, Robert Fripp's band. It has more of a Talking Headsy feel to it, some of it, but still sort of proggy. Includes extensive 36-page booklet plus live in North America CD of additional recordings, and the Blu-ray is in surround sound 5.1. So anyway, there you go. That's a 3-disc set, and there is a vinyl for that. And yeah, there's also a two disc version, I believe, which is just the CD and the Blu-ray. So all right, moving along here, something that I was kind of excited about, and I really want to hear this. And this guy writes so much music, Jeff Tweedy, and his new solo record. This is called Twilight Override, and it's actually, this is a box, and it's 3 records or 3 CDs also. And this is the limited edition 3 LP box set on New Moon White Swirl Indie Store exclusive vinyl. Includes Enough, Lou Reed Was My Babysitter, a great name for a song, Forever Never Ends, Feel Free, One Tiny Flower, and 25 more new tracks, recorded in the loft by the acclaimed author, songwriter, and Wilco frontman. So 30 new songs by Jeff Tweedy of Wilco. Can't wait to hear that. I've really liked the more recent Wilco records. The one about Cruel America, whatever that was a great album. One of their best. Cruel Country, that was it. And then the last one, Cousin, was quite good too. They had an EP out. Guy is just always cranking out music. So I think this is probably going to be my guess for the biggest release of the week, for the general record buying public in my shop, probably Geese and their new album Getting Killed. I don't know if the timing is all that great for the title. You see the cover there, a horn and a gun. Anyway, Geese, they're like a pretty wild sounding band. Singer Cameron Winter He has his own solo record out too. And you just never really know what you're going to get with a Geese record. This is their third or fourth album. And they're still basically kids, and they're pretty like wild, experimental, sort of have touchstones in regular rock, but also have these sort of like bursts of experimental moments. And they're one of the most talked about bands right now. It's funny because Geese and Goose both are blowing up at the same time, literally. So, anyway, that's something that is heavily anticipated to be quite popular. Also, the return of, it's been 5 or 6 years since she had a solo record, Neko Case, and her new album. This is called Neon Gray Midnight Green, limited edition color vinyl. We're having a little event in the store at 5 p.m. on the day this comes out, where we're just going to play this and give away some Neko promotional material. So anyway, things like album flats and pencils and pads of paper and whatever, just to celebrate Neko. But excited about this new record, and I have heard it, actually. If you like Neko, it's very much what you would expect from her, I would say. Sort of her musings on things, and she has kind of a singular voice. There's nobody else that really sounds like this right now. And her style of writing is still rather oblique, to the point that I would say it's not super direct or necessarily for everyone. But it's really interesting music. And the one song, the second track, Tomboy Gold, is kind of a really interesting song because it's not really a song. It's more like a minute and a half kind of soundscape that she likes doing this, where she kind of shocks the listener with like the second or third track on the album being like totally out of left field, and then the rest of it is more kind of what you would expect. But it's got a almost like spoken word stuff in it, and it's she's not a sellout by any means. So another album that's sort of highly anticipated this week, Christone Kingfish Ingram and his new record Hard Road. He's a blues guy, very, very popular, young guy still. And it's an electrifying new album from the Grammy Award winning blues guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter. Bad Like Me is the first song on here. This is the green and white splash vinyl. So 11 new tracks. Last song called Memphis. Very bluesy, if you like the blues. He's the one that kind of gets up on stage a lot with Muddy Waters, or he did when he was younger. Muddy would bring him on stage and let him have his own time, and so he's highly regarded and revered by those people. Another sort of legend of music at this point, Robert Plant, and his new album Saving Grace, with Susie Diane. It's a singer I'm not familiar with, but Robert's changing a little bit on this record, doing something he hasn't really done before, which is focusing on a more English style folk music, English folk tunes. And so Alison Krauss is busy doing stuff with Union Station now, and he's doing this, features the songs I Will Never Marry, Gospel Plow, Chevrolet, As I Roved Out, It's a Beautiful Day Today, bringing some of that English folk kind of stuff, folk rock in. I suppose kind of somewhat inspired by Fairport Convention, Pentangle. We just lost a super revered bass player, Danny Thompson, yesterday. That guy has played on some of my favorite records of all time, including early Nick Drake albums like Five Leaves Left. And apparently Danny was like, I don't mind talking to people. I have a lot to say. Please just don't bring up that Nick Drake album again. I think he got a little tired of talking about it at some point. But he played with Kate Bush on her albums. Some of my favorite albums by David Sylvian, he played on those records. So gonna miss that guy. He's very talented. 86, so not terribly young, but anyway. A couple of reissues of note this week. I'm going to skip around here a little bit. The Sundays with Blind, and the Sundays only made 3 albums. And this album, the last time I saw it, was on a record store day about 8 years ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago, and it sold out so quickly. So here we are, double vinyl. I don't know if this is a color vinyl edition or not. I think it might be because it has a separate barcode over the other one. I don't know, but they've made it a double vinyl. So I think the record store day one might have been single. I don't remember. It's been a while since I listened to it now, but this they only had 3 albums. They're all great, and this being the second one, this is the one that features their cover of the Rolling Stones' "Wild Horses." That's such an incredible version of the song at the end of this album. "Love" was the single. Great song. "Goodbye" also begins with "I Feel." Harriet Wheeler just had one of the most, or has, I say had like she's dead or something. She's not dead. She just hasn't done a record in almost 30 years. No longer recording, and but what an incredible voice. And they've also reissued their first album again, Reading, Writing, and Arithmetic. I think that the last version that we had that came out last year might have been color vinyl. I'm not sure. I think this might just be black, and it seems sort of thin, but a little more economical maybe. It's like a little under $30, 29. So but this is another great album. If you have not heard this, it's sort of like mixes two of my favorite bands, the Cocteau Twins and the Smiths. Kind of sounds like a hybrid of the two of those things. But Harriet has had such an incredible voice, and the songs are great. "Here's Where the Story Ends" was the big single from this. That was kind of their breakthrough. It wasn't like a huge chart hit, but it was a big hit at college radio. If you're into dream pop, I wouldn't call it shoegaze. I'd say it's more like dream pop, like, very ethereal kind of girl vocals and whatever. This is fantastic. "Hideous Towns," "Can't Be Sure," "You're Not the Only One I Know," "I Kicked a Boy," "My Finest Hour." That's such a great album. Anyway, both of those I highly recommend. And yeah, they were like a late 80s, early 90s, into the 90s band. Rob Zombie and Hellbilly Deluxe. This is a reissue. RSD Essentials did a reissue of this, and it's on glow in the dark vinyl, which usually doesn't necessarily sound the best, but damn, it's fun to look at. And we're talking Rob Zombie here. This is probably, I don't know if it's his best solo record, but it's probably, well, for me it probably was, but it's certainly his most immediate solo record, I think, after leaving White Zombie, or mutating it. This features Dragula and Living Dead Girl. Those were two pretty big singles, impact tracks from this. Call of the Zombie, Super Beast, stuff like that. When I see stuff like this that's on Geffen, or the Sundays on Geffen, I'm holding out hope that Beck's Midnight Vultures will show up at some point soon. Come on, guys, make it happen. You did Mellow Gold. Another one that's really great that I'm glad to see again, and I think this might have been available too, but this time it's on an RSD pressing. It's color vinyl. Neon Jazzberry. Ooh. Neon Jazzberry, first time on vinyl since 1994. That's what it says. Features Backwater. That was the big hit. This was the Meat Puppets' most famous, I suppose, most popular album. They just did a whole bunch of reissues of other older albums, Huevos, and we still have some of those, but this is, if you're going to get a Meat Puppets, I suppose, one of them, that's the one to get. As I mentioned before, I was talking about Beat, and this is the vinyl version of this. This is the limited deluxe triple gatefold on Ruby 3 LP and LP booklet. So it's like a red color, featuring Adrian Belew, Steve Vai. Steve is sort of a riffy kind of guitar player. Tony Levin, famous bass player for tons of people, Peter Gabriel and whoever, and Danny Carey of Tool. That's who's on this record. This is all King Crimson stuff. It does have some stuff. It said 80s, but I see Lark's Tongue in Aspic, Tongues in Aspic Part 3. I guess that's sort of moving on from the 80 or into the 80s stuff too. There's a 14-minute version of Sheltering Sky. Industry's 10 minutes long, so, but starts with Neurotica, which is 4.5 minutes, so there's some more bite-sized kind of stuff there too. King Crimson changed so much over their career into like different sounds, and I think I would hesitate to say, but maybe bands like King Gizzard were sort of influenced by the breadth of King Crimson's kind of soundscapes. Anyway, another newish. They're not really that new anymore. They've been around for about a decade or so, but this band is still blowing up, getting bigger all the time. Rainbow Kitten Surprise and their new record, Bones. This is the exclusive banana color vinyl, aka it's yellow like the sticker that's on it. This is 10 new songs. Rainbow Kitten Surprise. Sometimes they go by RKS. So anyway, one that came out last week that we didn't get until a little later, and I feel like I should mention it. Algernon Cadwallader. I'll get that right. Trying Not to Have a Thought. This says a revolution in indie rock. It's on Saddle Creek. This is a pressing of 1500 on Sharpie yellow vinyl. It's a eye-catching cover. Indie rock is pretty apt, I'd say. It kind of like hits that sort of 90s grunge punk meets emo sort of thing. And it's very highly praised. The new song I was listening to earlier today even was sort of about a friend of theirs that had passed away. It was a kind of a touching tribute in indie rock. So Doja Cat, I'm shifting gears here. New Doja Cat record, V. And her last couple records, or last record, I feel like maybe it wasn't the last one, the one before, but she kind of went like hard rock. She's really been all over the place since she started out as kind of dance pop. I think this is maybe more of a return to the dancier side of things and a little more. But I don't think this is like as heavy rock as the last stuff she was doing. But she's still out there performing on lots of awards shows and things like that. Speaking of divas, brand new Mariah Carey album. It's been a while. Here for It All. And, well, she looks attractive on the cover, right? And I don't know. I feel like I enjoyed her vocal more when she was younger, but, she still can sing. This has a duet with Anderson .Paak, and then Jesus I Do with the Clark sisters. So that's probably more gospel-y. But new Mariah, you know what you're getting there. She's huge. She's been huge forever. This artist I need to check out a little more, and I keep hearing good things. Olivia Dean and her new album, The Art of Loving. And this is on limited edition Lilac vinyl featuring the song Nice to Each Other. I have a friend who works at a local venue, and he's like, oh, we had Olivia Dean in, and she was actually really great. And he doesn't say that about most artists. There's a lot of artists that he's like, oh, they all use backing tracks or, whatever. But he said she was actually really good. So I'll take that as, that's pretty high praise coming from that person. This is the new, I was a little confused with this, the new Biffy Clyro record, Futique, as opposed to Antique. And Biffy is a band from the UK. I don't know, are they from Wales? I can't remember. Pretty heavy sort of stalwarts and rock at this point from there. And they put out quite a few records, and they keep putting them out even in the U.S. I got confused because there's this Back to Black sticker that got slapped on this, and I'm like, wait a second, it's not even the right label, I don't think. And the sticker says something about soundtrack from 1973, Best Picture winning film, and I'm like, was this supposed to go on the Godfather soundtrack or something? Anyway, but new Biffy Clyro album. So if you know Biffy Clyro, sort of in that era of bands like Muse and stuff like that came out of the UK. Check that out. New album from Sloan. Been a while for them. This one's called The Bestseller. This is the limited edition gold vinyl on Yep Rock Records. Sloan is just one of those bands, that 90s band. They just keep sort of putting out records quietly and tour when they want to. They really are a group that have done things on their own terms. They don't care necessarily about being like massive successes. I think at one point they were on a major label and were like, screw this, and kind of decided gonna do things their own way. Amanda Shires and her new album, Nobody's Girl. She's Jason Isbell's ex at this point. And so I'm interested to hear what she has to say about that. She's got a great voice. She was in that one group that for a while that featured Brandi Carlile and was it I'm trying Maren Morris, maybe. I can't remember the name of that, but anyway, great singer and great violinist too. So it'll be interesting to hear what she does there. Kate LeBon and her much anticipated new record, Michelangelo Dying. She keeps putting out records, and she's become kind of like an indie rock go-to producer even. She did the last Wilco album, I believe. Also works with St. Vincent and Horse Girl. Says Michelangelo Dying is a vivid grieving of a fantasy, a shimmering song cycle shaped by heartache and emotional abstraction. Her first new album since 2022's monumental Pompeii. It features a moving collaboration with John Cale. And also, this is the indie exclusive Bone White edition. So she's an indie artist. Blues artist, Mud Morganfield, and his new album, Deep Mud. If you're not familiar with Mud Morganfield, he is the son, or one of the sons, of Muddy Waters. And I don't know why they packaged the album this way. Well, I do, because they didn't want seam splits and whatever. But yeah, Mud Morganfield, and it says, to my mother, where love is the melody that plays in my heart. And it's also sort of a red vinyl, which you can see from being on the outside of the jacket there. From Original Jazz Classics, we were supposed to get two titles this week. The Kenny Drew is still on the way. We did so far get the Sonny Chris, which is Birth of the New Cool, the Sonny Chris Orchestra. This is Sonny's Dream. And this is, again, mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. This says, the inspiration and musicianship of this album are a credit to all concerned. Chris and Tapscott should be especially proud, and I hope the band and Tapscott can be heard again. That's from Larry Cart at Downbeat Records. So Tommy Flanagan is the pianist on here. Another famous jazz person. Also interesting this week, John Coltrane's The Love Supreme. This is a mono edition. This is celebrating 60 years of the masterpiece. The mono mix available for the first time in over 50 years. Faithfully mastered by Ryan K. Smith and pressed at RTI. So it's a landmark album, and in the mono edition, it's usually always you see it in stereo, so that's pretty cool. People have been waiting for this. Eminem and his reissue of Marshall Mathers LP. This is the one that featured Stan. This is the one that I'd say kind of elevated his career from being kind of a dark but jokey rapper to a little more serious, and I think people took him a little more seriously at that point. So had some really, that was a very popular record, sold millions and millions of, and it's kind of cool what they did with the cover here. They sort of did like this foil sort of thing to it. Let's see, Ronnie Wood, 1965 to 2025, Fearless, the anthology. Ronnie, a member of the Rolling Stones, and this is a lot of his solo work. The first track is Plinth with the Jeff Beck group. Then there's Flying with Faces. I see Ooh La La's on here too. A couple of tracks with Rod Stewart, Gasoline Alley, Every Picture Tells a Story. There's a news track with Chrissy Hind, which might end up on her new record. I don't know. She's got a record of duets coming out shortly. That looks very interesting. I'm not done. I've got more. This is the time of year you guys get tons of stuff to choose from. Cher, the Farewell Tour, and this is a sort of a reissue. This cool foil cover. Finally available on vinyl. 2 LPs on hot pink and purple, sparkling, glittering magic, and every groove, right? This is just some of Cher's best songs done live. Still haven't, and it starts with her cover of I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, the U2 song. Then she goes into Song for the Lonely, All or Nothing, I Found Someone, Bang Bang. She does a Sonny and Cher medley. Oh, Heart of Stone, Save Up All Your Tears, Gypsies. Half Breed is on here, which is kind of surprising because I think she's pretty much kind of like taken that song out of her sets. It was not featured on her recent Greatest Hits album, even though it was a #1 hit. Some people find the subject matter, you know, sort of diminishing or whatever. So, woke. Anyway, not going into that. XTC and their new record, Drums and Wires, a new release. This is an old record, but this is a Steven Wilson remix. Steven Wilson of Porcupine Tree. This is the first time that that's been on vinyl. So if you want to hear Steven Wilson's version and you didn't get the digital one, now you can get that. A lot of interesting reissues this week. This is the Zombies Odyssey and Oracle, newly remastered in mono edition, and limited edition Orchid Indie. This is orchid color, like a maybe this purpley sorta. It says featuring Time of the Season and This Will Be Our Year. New liner notes by David Frick. Psych pop masterpiece, decades ahead of its time, by Pitchfork Magazine. One of Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time. So, and look at it, there's tons of stuff to read about on the back. Anyway, yeah, that's the mono edition. So, mono's having a comeback. Excited to hear this too. Virgin Suicides. This is Virgin Suicides Redo by Air French band, and this is the new analog mix for the 25th anniversary edition. So a brand new mix of this album. There's really only one vocal track. The first track, Playground Love, featuring the singer Gordon Tracks, and the rest of it is all instrumental, kind of ambient, moody, keyboard based, synthy. Has that sort of early Kubrickian, Clockwork Orange mixed with like Kraftwerk-y kind of, but more French. Yeah, it's actually a really great soundtrack. So interested to hear that. This year is the 75th anniversary of Peanuts and Charlie Brown and the Vince Guaraldi Trio. They've decided to do a picture disc version of Peanuts' greatest hits, which is awesome. And this is includes the instantly recognizable Linus and Lucy, as well as holiday favorites and character themes, such as Great Pumpkin Waltz, baseball theme, and Christmas Time is Here. So there you go, your Peanuts 75th anniversary. And then also they have reissued Charlie Brown Thanksgiving for this year. We've already gotten a reissue or two of Charlie Brown Christmas, and this one is on yellow jelly bean vinyl. That is the new color that they're pressing this on now. And this is from a little bit later. I think it was 75 when they did this one. Trying to remember what year. 73. This one features Little Birdie, which I think Vince himself sang that song. But yeah, Little Birdie, if you remember that song. Well, if you're a Peanuts fan. If you're of the age, like me, that you remember that song as a kid. So Phoenix, I should have put this with the Air stuff. I don't know how that got split. Phoenix and Air sort of friends, another sort of French Connection type band. It was a great indie band, friends of Beck. Played on the Olympics last year, 2 years ago. It's never been like that. This is one of their early albums that was sort of a breakthrough record for them. Starts with the song Napoleon Says. So anyway, Phoenix gets a reissue. The American Riverside gets a reissue with their album One. This album is very heavily talked about as a cult classic, and produced made by Record Industry, 100% recycled vinyl, vegetable based, big ink, FSC certified board, green energy. Okay, a sustainable product. I mean, there's all this kind of information about that, but this was one of those bands that they put out a record. I think it was Sire Records or something. Yeah, 1992. And it was kind of like one of those new, like, proggy, dream pop. There's a mix of things. And it was very sort of popular underground. And then they just sort of, they didn't stop making music. They kept making records. They must have gotten dropped by Sire or something. But this album is heavily sought after. Starts with Waterfall, Cinnamon Eyes, Galaxy, ends with James. People love this record. So... and they are, I believe, Pennsylvanian. One of my customers actually plays drums for them now and has for quite a while. So anyway, excited to see that. Polygon Window, and bet you weren't expecting this today, Aphex Twin fans. Aphex Twin under a different name. This record is Surfing on Sine Waves. It's for the 30th anniversary, a remaster and re-release of this black vinyl, 3 LP, 14 tracks, including all the tracks from the original album, the Quoth EP, and the 2001 reissue. So that's quite a bit of music, and 40 bucks. Aphex Twin are not for everybody, but this was kind of a more of a sort of an ambient type of record, and it still had beats and things, but so some fans will be looking for that. Some classic Melvins live. This is a limited edition Holy Heart Attack vinyl, as black as your bleeding black heart. This is Colossus of Destiny from the Melvins. Untitled 1 and Untitled 2 on the back. Again, whenever I see like classic Melvins, I'm like, I feel like I have to order it because there are always people that are looking for that sort of thing. Humble Pie, a reissue of As Safe as Yesterday Is. And this is restored and remastered. The album as it was meant to be heard. Illustrated sleeve notes curated by Peter Frampton and Jerry Shirley. And Immediate Records still had something to do with this reissue. And I did have people pre-ordering this and asking me like, will you get me that? And I'm like, sure. So Humble Pie still a factor. Steven Wilson and a reissue of his EP from a few years back. I just want to say maybe 9 years ago. 4.5. It's kind of hard to find. It's 4 songs and a half song, I suppose, but they're long songs, so it's really kind of like a shorter album for him. The first side is like 18 minutes, and side 2 is 18, 19 minutes. So you're talking like a 37, 38 minute album. $30. Steven Wilson. If you don't have it, you might be interested. That's out. Zach Sabbath. Greatest hits. So Zach Wild doing Black Sabbath songs. And I think this was planned for release before Ozzy passed. It's on red vinyl. This says here, War Pigs, Into the Void, Solitude, Evil Woman, Under the Sun. So if you want to hear Zach Wild doing, and it's on the vinyl voice edition, if you want to hear him doing Black Sabbath tracks. Greshon Moncur III, and this is New Africa, a reissue of this album. This is deluxe edition, parts of 1969, Paris 1969 avant-garde jazz classic. Features Archie Shepp too. It's a spiritual radical essential. I'm always intrigued by these records coming out of France that we've never heard or seen before much in the US. Jimmy Witherspoon and his new reissue, Jump Blues Live 1972. Rare performance from 2 blues legends pressed on cobalt blue vinyl. So Jimmy Witherspoon and Robin Ford. And that's a young Robin Ford there. Johnny Gimbel and a reissue for RSD Essential, I think, indie exclusive Coke bottle clear vinyl. Feature Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson, Vince Gill, Garrison Keillor, Dale Watson, Jesse Dayton, and more. So country music, storytelling, fiddle. Looks like he's playing some kind of fiddle, violin here. Johnny Gimbel. Positive Express. This is a 1982 funk soul group. Very hard to find. 80s disco funk meets hip hop's early sparks. All platinum Sylvia Robinson is responsible for this masterpiece. Reissued for the first time in 4 decades, special edition rainbow foil sleeve. And Sylvia Robinson, kind of a big name in indie or in R&B at the time. So anyway, Positive Express. I was not aware of that, but it looked cool. And I've sampled it. It sounds cool. And John Zachary returns with another pressing of Monster Mash, just in time for Halloween. This is pressed on split purple and green color vinyl with black splatter. I'm not sure why they put the sticker right over the song list, so it's a good thing it's on the back, but it does start with Monster Mash. Let's Twist Again, Mummy Time is Here. I'm the Ghoul from Wolverton Mountain. Popeye, the Grave Digger. Yeah, stuff of the time. So, but kind of cool. Other things to show that sort of snuck in. I didn't show the vinyl for Marcus King because it's showing up by today or tomorrow. But I have the CD, Marcus King, his new record, Darling Blue. He's sort of funk soul blues kind of stuff. Marcus King Band is what it says on the back. So he is crediting the band on that. Zara Larsson and her new record, Midnight Sun. She's sort of pop. I want to say maybe Swedish or something like that. She's got a song called Euro Summer. So another pop record on CD, Carol G, and I can't remember the name of this, Tropicoquetta. Carol G is sort of also an artist that's sort of breaking out. If you want those on vinyl, let me know. I think they're both available. Gruff Reese of Super Furry Animals, his new CD, Dim Probs, And this is all in Welsh. So it's one of his Welsh language albums. But if you like him or Super Furry Animals, check that out. And then I did want to show Air, Virgin Suicides, again, the Redux version. New analog mix. The CD version is a 3-disc set. So there's more on here than there is on the vinyl. It includes the Blu-ray audio, and then there's a disc of demos and rarities also. So that features Playground Love, vibraphone version, Suicide Underground, Francis Lay, Playground Love demo strings. You get the point. So if you want more Air, I would say, and you want the vinyl, you're probably going to have to get both, because it's going to take both to get the complete tracks. Sometimes you're like, I don't know why they didn't put all of these on vinyl. And then you're like, because it would probably cost a lot more money to do that. Another one I got to mention, Frank Zappa and the Mothers, One Size Fits All. This is a box set that was on online, I believe, on vinyl. I don't know if we can get the vinyl. I haven't really checked that. But this, I think there's just a single vinyl maybe. But this is the CD box set, which features 5 discs, 4 CDs, 2 discs of live, and 1 of rarities, and then Blu-ray audio. So if you're into Zappa, that is going to be out Friday also. I wanted to talk just really quick of some new release highlights. And before I go, first I just want to say I'm very happy that Jimmy Kimmel got back on the air this week. After my little sort of side rant last week about how that was such a disservice to the musicians involved that promote their music on those shows. That to me was probably, for me, it was one of the most important things anyway, that the music does not get silenced as well. So I'm very glad about that. And then thank you for doing the right thing, even though there are some stations out there that still are not playing it. At least you can catch the performances on YouTube later and whatever. I mean, are we really that sensitive that we need our networks to censor us over stuff like this? I mean, really. All right, so I was going to go over some new releases. So next week, October 3rd, you know what's coming. Taylor Swift, the big release next week. So there's not a whole lot next week other than that. There's a Jerry Garcia, the second live box set of the recent box sets. The sort of one-step version of Prince's Purple Rain on vinyl next week, which is going to sound great. A new Sparks EP that they've been selling at their shows. Oasis have a deluxe edition of What's the Story coming next week with more bonus tracks. David Sylvian reissues his 4 earliest solo records on color vinyl, and the Lord of the Rings soundtrack gets all 3 parts come out on vinyl, finally, the Howard Shore soundtracks. October 10th, we're talking in the US here, John Lennon live, like early live stuff from him and Yoko. Also, Patti Smith has a reissue of the Horses album. Sparks have 2 reissues of Big Beat and Indiscreet, I believe, 2 of their early mid-70s records. Ike Quebec has a Blue Note, sort of expanded Blue Note edition. St. Paul and the Broken Bones, Rhett Miller, Flock of Dimes, Clips, and by the way, Clips is a reissue of the recent album with like a song added to it. The big thing is probably Tom Petty, the one step of Wildflowers. Now, I don't know if you really need it because the other version of Wildflowers sounded great, but that's coming as well. October 17th. This is a big week, okay? Write these down if you're interested. Tame Impala, first album in 6 years. Last Dinner Party, their new stuff is sounding great. David Gilmour live, his new live record. Bruce Springsteen, the Nebraska box set. So you're getting stuff surrounding that album, including E Street stuff or band stuff. Chrissy Hind, I mentioned her duets album. That's October 17th. Also, Jid featuring 21 Savage. And a bunch of, we're starting to get the Rocktober releases from Rhino. So, Yes's 90125, Porno for Pyro's first album, their breakthrough. There's a whole bunch of those, so go check out at rhino.com and see what the Rocktober releases are this year. Chris Isaak gets a reissue of Forever Blue, one of his best albums. A couple of Blue Note classics from Grant Green and Elvin Jones, and a couple of Chess remasters from Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters. October 24th, Neil Young, his new box set featuring Mirrorball with Pearl Jam, which is a big deal, right? New Brandy Carlisle, new Mammoth, which is Wolfie Van Halen. Horace Silver, a reissue of some classic stuff from him. More Rocktober stuff from Mr. Bungle, Ministry. There's a Little Feat reissue. There's an Elton John Captain Fantastic reissue. Duran Duran's Greatest Hits on vinyl. Now that might be a big thing because it actually features Ordinary World and Come Undone from the Wedding album. Those songs have not been on vinyl for 30 years. And people ask me for those all the time, and you're finally going to be able to get that in the US. England's had it for a couple months. Other things, Kate Bush reissue, sort of B-sides type collection. Couple of original jazz classics, Hank Mobley and Yusuf Lateef. And a King Crimson CD and Blu-ray. I believe Lizard and In the Wake of Poseidon are those albums that are featured there. Those are mostly CD, I believe. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe Lizard might be vinyl. I can't remember. I'd have to look. But those albums are featured. King Crimson just keeps. October 31st, Florence and the Machine, Radiohead Live, ZZ Top, the Rhino Hi-Fi editions, another set of them, including Eliminator, at retail. Warren Zevon has a Rhino Reserve of Excitable Boy. Rush have a box set that's like more later material, Clockwork Angels and things like that. They just announced the Cars have a Heartbeat City box set coming out. The Who Are You, have a box set. And there are deluxe versions for these two. Bob Dylan, very early years, part of his bootleg series. And New Order reissues. And also Blondie, No Exit. We're on November 7th now. Paul McCartney and Wings best of. There's a Brian Wilson live. There's Husker Du live. Hayley Williams album finally comes out, the new one. Mavis Staples, Somber. The Cranberries Unplugged. Big deal there. I hope they do more Unpluggeds. Weezer's Hurley, finally on vinyl. And Del Watergap. And then November 14th, we've got Goose, which is, I think, already maybe out online. I don't know. But Goose will be at retail. Rolling Stones, Black and Blue Deluxe Edition. Other reissues from Jesus and Mary Chain, Everything But the Girl, Split Ends, Nick Hayward, Lush, Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair Deluxe, Drive-By Truckers, and an Art Pepper OJC. And finally, November 21st, the Beatles Anthology box. And you can get Anthology 4 by itself. Prince, Around the World in a Day reissues. And Replacements, Let It Be. And then by the next week, we're up to Black Friday, Record Store Day. So those are sort of highlights of things that I know now. There's tons more than that. But I just want you to be prepared about what's coming down the pike, right? There's a lot of stuff. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. I know this was a lot today. A lot of information, a lot to talk about. I'll see you next week. Have a great week. Peace, love, take care. Do good for the world. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Give me a like.